I used to do an imitation of L. Ron Hubbard when I was on the 1963 briefing course, because at that time we were fooling around, for those that know about the briefing course, with something called Goals, Problems, Mass, or GPMs. And Ron used to start one of his lectures by saying, "All right, today I want to talk to you about RIs and GPMs." RIs were reliable items. Anyway, maybe this will get edited out of today's interview. But what I wanted to talk about really has to do with the state of clear, and particularly what came about in 1958. Washington, D.C., Founding Church of Scientology of Washington, D.C., FCDC, as it was called. First of all, before I get to 1958, I want to mention the idea of clear in the first place. You read in Dynamics, Modern Science, and Mental Health, and perhaps in later publications, that a person could be clear, having no reactive mind left, and that state was permanent. That a clear could experience certain things, like if you were clear, and I think Ron used the example of a bear. You were out hunting bear, and somehow the bear hunted you and almost killed you, gave you some new engrams. And so the clear would go down towards death as the bear attacked him. And if somehow you survived the attack, later on the clear would gradually start running out the trauma, the mental, physical, emotional, possibly spiritual trauma, and come back up again to cheerfulness or enthusiasm or even exhilaration, and go back out and hunt the bear down and kill it. Now that sounds kind of gross, but nevertheless, the clear was clear again and could operate as a clear instead of, boy, now that I've been attacked by a bear, I don't want to go hunting ever again. In fact, I won't ever use a gun again. In fact, if I go hiking in the forest, I'll always be in fear, and my bowels will be weak, and I'll always wonder. That's a non-clear person. But the clear erases all those things again and is no longer afraid of bears or the forest, or if it gets dark in the trees or any of those things. He's now a clear. He doesn't have a reactive mind that re-stimulates and makes him frightened and perspiring and, I got to get out of here quickly, there could be another. No, he goes right back out, just like first time, where, there's the bear, bang, now I have a bear rug. That's your clear. But it turned out that one of the things I learned, at least in Scientology, having to do with the subject of time, and what is time, and what happens to all things that are part of time. Well, if you take something, anything that exists, and you put it in time, over time, if it's alive, it grows old, and it gets sick, and degrades, and eventually dies, and choom. And if it's not alive, even though maybe everything is, if it's like the Rock of Gibraltar, or a giant mountain, or a steel thing, it may take centuries, thousands, maybe tens of thousands of years for that thing to finally erode, diminish, turn to dust. But it appears that all things that are subject to the effect of time degrade or go down or diminish or cease to be what they once were. And it has come to pass in my experience, which may not be true for anyone else, that even states of consciousness, such as clear, or other states that are achievable in any number of things, that even these things, when subject to time, will, if the person insists that they persist, get that, that's the key word. If the person insists on remaining clear, in order for something to continue to persist, in order to give it persistence, it has to become altered. That may be a tough, difficult message, but for something to persist throughout time, the thing itself has to be altered, and as it goes through these alterations, it ceases to be what it once was. So even a clear, if the person, instead of treating the state as just, well, as they say in Buddhism, it's just another big satori, I became clear, I was no longer creating a reactive mind. If he insists on having that state persist, over time he will, to one degree or another, keep altering it until once again he has what would be called a reactive mind. He can do these things himself. He can get rid of that reactive mind again. But the idea that the state of clear is a permanent, absolute, never to be destroyed, diminished, or lost as a state simply is not true. That's my reality. And so, getting great states of awareness like, the Buddha, he became totally enlightened. So what? If he started getting serious about it, which he may have eventually done, that's it. So you can treat all of these states as something that you will acquire, something that can never be lost, like your ability to rehabilitate the state of clear. You may have that ability until hell freezes over. It has to do with knowing about a subject called auditing. So as an auditor, you can do all kinds of things with all of these states because all of them are rehabilitatable. They have a moment in time when they existed, and that can be brought into present time and recreated. But enough about that. I really wanted to talk about what came to be called the 1958 Help Clear.